Discomfort, distance, disposition. This story was inspired by the AARP article, Overcoming Social Isolation with New Technologies. Robot pets like Joy for All, with realistic fur and a heartbeat, have spread across senior care facilities nationwide, easing anxiety in dementia patients and reducing loneliness. It was the third day of Caleb's posting at Maple Care Home. In the corner of the dining room, an old woman was holding a cat. White fur, a round face, eyes half closed on her lap, throat purring. It was a robot pet built to look just like a real cat. The fur was silicone fiber, soft to the touch. A motor in its chest produced a heartbeat-like vibration. Stroked, it purred. Picked up, it shifted its weight in your arms. Mrs. Nora Hayes, 89, early-stage dementia. Every day she held this cat and called it Misty. Caleb was 23, just licensed as a CNA, and this was his first time on a real floor. It's creepy, he thought. The next day, at lunch break, Mrs. Hayes was in the dining room with the cat again. Misty, you're warm again today. She stroked its head. The cat purred. Mrs. Hayes smiled. Caleb was clearing plates next to her. His hand stopped. Shouldn't somebody tell her? It's not real. It's a machine. Letting her hold it day after day, without knowing, isn't that the same as deceiving her? When Caleb tried to leave the dining room, his senior, Larson, was standing in the hallway, 40s, 15 years at this facility. Caleb, yes. You about to say something just now? No, don't lie. It's all over your face. Caleb went silent. Larson crossed his arms and glanced toward the dining room. Mrs. Hayes was holding the cat, smiling. Not your call. That's all he said. Then he walked off. That afternoon, Caleb went into Mrs. Hayes' room for a vitals check. Mrs. Hayes was sitting on the bed with Misty on her lap. Caleb, dear. Misty, we have a guest. Hello, Mrs. Hayes. Going to check your blood pressure. He wrapped the cuff around her arm and glanced sideways at the robot cat. White fur, chest moving up and down a little. Motor vibration, but it looked like real breathing. While he was finishing the vitals and writing in the chart, Mrs. Hayes stroked Misty's back and said, almost to herself, "This little one, there's a screw back here that's a bit loose." Caleb's hand stopped. A screw? Here, behind the neck. It rattles. It didn't used to. She pressed a finger behind the cat's neck. Sure enough, a faint rattle. The screw on the seam of the outer panel was loose. Caleb couldn't move. Mrs. Hayes knew. She knew there was a screw. There are no screws on a real cat. Mrs. Hayes knew that, and called it Misty anyway. That evening, Caleb tracked down Larson. Larson, Mrs. Hayes, does she know that Misty's a robot? She knows. And she still treats it like, not like. To her, screw or motor or whatever, a cat that's warm and purrs is a cat. But, Caleb, you go up to Mrs. Hayes and say that's a robot, you know. And what changes? You know she buys tuna pouches at the gift shop every day. Yeah, to feed the cat. Right, the cat doesn't eat, but Mrs. Hayes goes to the gift shop every day. She walks, she talks to people, she picks out the tuna. That's what makes up her day. Misty's why she's moving. Larson sipped his coffee. That's happiness, isn't it? Whether it lines up with what you call right or not. In the locker room, on his way home, Caleb thought about himself. He had thought it was creepy. He had thought it was a lie. He had thought it was wrong to make someone believe a fake was real. But all of that was Caleb's thinking. It wasn't Mrs. Hayes's. Mrs. Hayes knew there was a screw. Knowing, she stroked the cat. She bought tuna pouches. She said, "You're warm today." What Caleb had decided was wrong. For Mrs. Hayes wasn't wrong. It itched. He didn't know where to put his sense of right. What he had thought was correct didn't apply here. But it wasn't wrong either. It was just here his correctness wasn't needed. The next morning, Caleb came on shift, and Mrs. Hayes was in the dining room with Misty, smiling again. "Morning, Caleb. "Good morning, Mrs. Hayes. Misty's in a good mood today. Look, she's purring." He looked at Misty. White fur, round face, throat purring. A small screw behind the neck. "She's cute." Today, the words weren't a lie. He didn't think the cat was cute. But it was true that Mrs. Hayes did. He had no right to deny her version of cute. Larson passed in the hallway. Their eyes met. Larson didn't say anything, just gave a small nod and walked on. Lunch break. Caleb went to the gift shop and bought a tuna pouch, not for Mrs. Hayes, for his own lunch. But when he picked it up, he saw, in his head, Mrs. Hayes choosing one every day. For Misty, for a cat that doesn't eat, but the act of choosing. That was Mrs. Hayes's daily life. Caleb tore the pouch open, took a bite, and looked out the window. The discomfort was still there. He still didn't know the right distance. But where to put his sense of right, that, at least, he'd glimpsed. Don't set it down here. Keep it in your pocket. Take it out only when it's needed. Today is a pocket day.